This is the math of survival. Put the blast here so a human never feels it. Farmers did it with weight, steel, and stubbornness. Watch the moment a buried killer chooses the wrong target, and a gray field becomes a future again. If you look away, you'll miss the instant war starts losing ground. In today's episode, we're going into the invisible battlefield beneath Ukraine's feet. Landmines and unexploded ordnance are the quiet killers of this war, shaping where civilians can live, what farmers can plant, and how fast an army can move after the front lines shift. The scale is staggering. By mid-2025, credible assessments placed mine and UXO contamination across an area larger than England, touching millions of lives and choking off whole districts of farmland. The war will end. The explosives won't. Not without a systematic plan, serious money, and machines that can take the blast so humans don't have to. Here's the twist. While governments race to fund industrial flails, armored demining vehicles, and AI-assisted survey tools, Ukrainian farmers prototyped, financed, and delivered a homegrown mine-clearing roller that impressed the military enough to be ordered into service. It's not glossy. It's not fragile. It's built like a farm implement because that's exactly what its designers know: weight, ground pressure, serviceability, and the brutal physics of soil and steel. The practical horizon for humanitarian demining isn't months, it's years. Even with thousands of trained sappers, a triple-digit fleet of mechanical clearance systems, and a rising tide of donor funding, there's no shortcut to safety. Mines move when soil shifts. UXO hides in hedgerows and drainage cuts. Every safe corridor has to be proven, every field certified, every power line, rail bed, and irrigation ditch walked or rolled. The difference between a 30-year problem and a 10 to 15-year problem is throughput. That means more teams, smarter prioritization, and robust machines that can survive blasts, be repaired locally, and go right back to work. Farmers have been first responders on their own land, sometimes with tragic consequences. When planting season arrives, waiting isn't just inconvenient, it's existential. That pressure, paired with grim, first-hand knowledge of where mines tend to sit and how fields feel under load, drove the farmer community to build a tool they would trust with their own lives. The result is a roller system that simulates the weight signature of a heavy vehicle, coaxing pressure-fused anti-tank mines to detonate where steel can absorb the shock instead of under a tractor cab. The origin story is bare-knuckle Ukrainian, a request for help near the front, a prototype paid out of pocket, a fundraiser across dozens of communities, and a design iterated for ruggedness, not brochure photos. When the army tested it, the data spoke louder than marketing. The roller got coded to NATO standards, cleared procurement, and started shipping. Early lots numbered in the dozens, with more queued as metal, bearings, and welding hours allowed. At its core, a mine roller is an argument about physics. Put more ground pressure ahead of the host vehicle than what the host vehicle would produce on its own tracks or tires. If there's a pressure-fused anti-tank mine, let it choose the roller. The farmer's unit uses modular wheel sections on a hinged frame, keeping contact over ruts and root lines. When a device detonates, the blast vents upward and outward. The roller might deform, a wheel might shear, but the frame lives, and, critically, the cabin where a human would sit is nowhere near the blast focus. In field conditions, that means controllable downtime and simple repairs. Grease fittings, replaceable hubs, sacrificial fasteners. The language of tractors, not boutique robotics. No serious deminer pretends a roller finds everything. Pressure plates trigger, magnetic and tilt fuses may not. Bounding anti-personnel mines, tripwires, and scatterable submunitions demand different tactics. But for high-risk lanes where heavy mines are likely, or for agricultural land that needs an initial bite before manual teams finish, rollers multiply speed and reduce the number of men kneeling in deadly grass. On the front and just behind it, combat engineers clear under fire, opening roads, rail spurs, and power corridors to keep brigades and civilians moving. In the rear, emergency teams neutralize hazards that can't wait. Armed submunitions near homes, mines exposed by floods, shells and playgrounds after a storm. Then there's humanitarian demining, the long, disciplined sweep that certifies fields, forests, villages, and industrial sites at scale so life can actually resume. The farmer's roller fits where civilian land needs throughput, where topsoil is thick, and where the cost of blowing up a $300,000 mower to shave brush is a non-starter. Ukraine's pool of equipment has diversified fast. At one end are tracked, remote-controlled bruisers that dig a foot into the soil, flailing and hammering through dense vegetation, shrugging off multiple blasts before needing depot work. At the other end are lightweight robots. Think powered lawn tractors from a tougher universe that prowl orchards and canal banks, shredding tripwires, flipping instead of shattering if they trip a serious mine, and returning to work after a battery swap and a quick wrench session. The farmer's roller sits in the middle. Simple, serviceable, easy to tow or bolt, and cheap enough to proliferate across counties instead of waiting for a single crown jewel machine to arrive. Speed isn't just about steel, it's about certainty. Aerial survey stacks magnetometers, high-resolution RGB, and thermal cameras to flag anomalies. Software turns that into probability maps, so commanders send the right tool to the right grid square. That means fewer false starts, fewer wasted hours, and a higher share of real targets per day. When a roller heads out, it does so on lanes prioritized for heavy mine risk, while lighter bots handle the thorny margins and manual teams sweep what's left with detectors. The headline losses you hear, billions in delayed exports and idle hectares, aren't abstract. Mine belts block combines, shred tires, and turn maintenance ditches into danger zones. A single destroyed tractor is a family's balance sheet for a decade. Now scale that across entire oblasts. Every safe hectare returned to production is a shot of foreign currency, a stabilizer for rural communities, and pressure relief for global grain markets. Even small month-over-month gains matter. A dozen farmer rollers working through late summer can restore planting in time for next season. That's not a statistic, it's bread. Donor nations have poured more than $1 billion into humanitarian demining support. Machines, trucks to haul them, excavators, detectors, and protective gear. The lesson from the field is clear: buy durable fleets, not one-off wonders. Send spares with every delivery. Train mechanics as aggressively as you train operators. And when local designs like the farmer's roller prove their worth, scale them. A country that can weld tank armor can weld a roller bracket, and a village that can crowdfund a fire engine can crowdfund steel wheels. Mud robs rollers of pressure. Rocks redirect blasts. Frozen ground hides fuses under a shell of ice. Mixed minefields lace heavy charges with little surprises, so you can't just thunder through and declare victory. That's why the doctrine is layered. Roll to detonate what wants pressure, flail to chew up what's shallow or entangled, plow to tip and expose, and then put human eyes and detectors on the remains. It's slower than anyone wants and faster than anything else we've tried at country scale. Equipment is multiplying, but experienced sappers are finite. That's reason enough to push remote control. Keep the operator on a berm with a tablet instead of a windshield full of shrapnel. Pair two machines so one watches the other. Use drones to scout the next lane before you move a single ounce of steel. And, maybe the least cinematic advice of all, accept maintenance downtime. A roller back in the shop today prevents a memorial service next week. Here's the hard truth. When a farmer sees an unexploded shell, the urge to just move it is ancient and understandable. But the math is merciless. Even in good years, a chunk of casualties come from people who tried to be brave with the wrong tools. The farmer's roller exists partly to remove the temptation, give communities a sanctioned, durable machine that actually works, and reinforce the norm that only trained teams finish the job. The moment this stops being a niche fix and becomes a national multiplier is when you see a county with 2 rollers run them like public transit, dawn to dusk, rotating through villages on a published schedule, with a hotline to slot in urgent cases. That's when insurance rates budge, when lenders unlock credit, when trucking companies redraw routes because a back road is certified safe again. The battlefield map doesn't change, but the economic map does, and that's how you outlast a war of attrition. Ukraine's industry can fabricate frames, forge wheels, and machine hubs at scale. Publish the interface standards so any qualified shop can produce modules, and keep the fancy electronics in swappable bricks. That lets you repair in Poltava instead of shipping to Prague, and it keeps fleets in the field when borders snarl. If Ukraine can codify the farmer's roller into doctrine, recommended soil conditions, best tow vehicles, parts kits, blast repair procedures, and training hours, it becomes an exportable package for post-conflict zones elsewhere. That's not charity, that's strategy. Countries that master humanitarian demining shape reconstruction timelines, insurance markets, and political stability long after the cameras move on. They salt the ground with fear and interest payments that last for decades. The antidote isn't a miracle machine. It's a system that puts the right weight on the earth at the right time, keeps humans out of the blast, and moves on to the next lane before lunch. The farmer's roller is exactly that kind of tool, born of anger and pragmatism, refined in welding bays that usually fix cedars and pointed down rows where wheat should be. So when you see a video of a squat frame thumping across a gray field and a plume lifts ahead of it, don't just see a machine surviving a blast. See a harvest coming back, a school bus route reopening, a family replanting an orchard with something like confidence. In a war full of drones and long-range missiles and satellite feeds, the humble geometry of steel and soil might be the most important technology of the piece. If you value deep dives into the tech that actually changes outcomes, on the front line and far behind it, hit subscribe, ring the bell, and share this episode with someone who thinks demining is just a cleanup job. It's nation building with torque wrenches and torque hearts. And in Ukraine, the people who feed the country just built a way to help save it.